Episode 11, Having a Good Time, Part 1, People and Time, Why Being Stood Up is Not Always What It Looks Like. Do you consider yourself a punctual person? How do you feel when you are late? How do you feel when someone makes you wait? Have you ever been stood up? If you live in North America or Northern Europe, you probably learned about punctuality early. From school, from your parents, perhaps from a raised voice when you were not ready to leave on time. But punctuality, like almost everything else we've explored in this series, is not a universal value. It is a cultural one, and the dimension that governs it has a name, chronemics, the study of how man uses time, and it may just be my favorite cultural dimension of all. From a young age, I would watch American and European TV shows and wonder, what do these people do on a Saturday afternoon? On a Sunday morning? Whatever the answer was, I was certain it was not what my family and friends did, where I grew up. Every time I visited a new city, I would find myself thinking about it afterwards, imagining what was happening there at that exact moment. When reading history books, I would ask, who stood exactly where I am standing now 500 years ago? What was this street, this field, this harbor? That fascination with time, with its depth, its layers, its different speeds and different places, led me to study history at university. But it was not until I encountered cultural studies that I discovered an entire branch of thought devoted to exactly this topic, and the man who mapped it most clearly was Edward Hall. Edward Hall introduced chronemics as a cultural dimension in his landmark work on intercultural communication. His insight was simple but revolutionary. Different cultures do not just use time differently, they experience it differently. They live inside a fundamentally different relationship with the clock. Monochronic cultures, broadly, Northern Europe, North America, and parts of East Asia, tend to treat time as linear and finite. You divide it into segments, you schedule things, you keep appointments. Violating someone's time is a serious offense because time, once spent, cannot be recovered. Polychronic cultures, broadly, Latin America, the Middle East, much of Africa, and Southern Europe, tend to treat time as flexible and relational. The present moment and the people in it take precedence over the arrangement that was made in the past. Plans adjust, life flows. One time my wife and I were visiting a European capital for a weekend. We had arranged to meet an old university friend, someone from a polychronic culture in South America. We had made it clear we were only there for 2 days. We agreed to meet at a bar at 8 o'clock on Saturday evening. That afternoon I was not feeling well. My throat had started to hurt. I remember thinking, I wish I could stay in, but when else would we get the chance to see our friend? I pushed through. We left the hotel, took the subway, and arrived at the meeting point punctually at 8 o'clock. 5 minutes passed, then 10, then 15. I sent a message. The reply, a perfectly polychronic one, shook me. He had not yet left his home. He was in a completely different part of the city. He suggested we meet a few hours later at a different bar. We did eventually meet him the following day, along with other friends. By then I had calmed down entirely. I was never truly angry at him, not once I had time to think clearly, and I never brought it up, because I should have known better. I grew up in South America. I had witnessed scenes like this more times than I could count, but 10 years of living in monochronic societies had recalibrated me, quietly, thoroughly, without my noticing, to the point where my friend's entirely normal behavior felt like a personal offense. Can you imagine what that evening would have looked like for someone who had never left a monochronic world? I can. I have read about countless such experiences, and the damage they do to relationships and business dealings is very real. Edward Hall was direct about the prognosis. Monochronic and polychronic people, placed in the same professional or personal environment without cultural awareness, will produce friction as reliably as water and oil produce separation. He also noted something interesting about adaptation. It is generally easier for monochronic people to adapt to polychronic environments than the reverse. The monochronic person in a polychronic setting can learn to release the schedule, to be present, to let the moment lead. It is uncomfortable, but it is manageable. The polychronic person placed inside a strict monochronic system, where every minute is accounted for, every delay noted, every deviation from the plan treated as a failure, often finds the environment genuinely alien. The clock becomes a cage. Look around your life and pay attention to the time orientations not just of people, but of the things, activities, and institutions surrounding you. You may find that certain incompatibilities in friendships, in workplaces, in families, have a cultural source that no one has yet named. If you live in a monochronic society, do your best to respect people's time. Violating it is, in that world, an unpardonable offense. If you find yourself in a polychronic place, take the opportunity to do what they do extraordinarily well. Enjoy life, the people around you, and the pleasures of the present moment. They are experts at that, not to judge, to understand. Next time, we take chronemics somewhere unexpected, into the kitchen, because it turns out that how a culture relates to time is written not just in its calendars and clocks, but in its spices, its buffets, and whether its people think a meal needs to be a party in your mouth or simply fuel for the day ahead.